Now we get to the buried lead in today's broadcast, which involves our friend the Atom, although it's not Addie's. Addie's segment comes moments from now, but he's listening behind the soundproof door. Here's the lead of the story. The U.S. government could face fines of $75,000 a day if it fails to find a way to store or handle stockpiles of defense-related nuclear waste by 2035, according to the Government Accountability Office. So that's the lead is that. In a report this week, the GAO says the Energy Department initially planned to move the waste currently stored at locations in 5 states to Yucca Mountain. But the administration's efforts to abandon Yucca are leaving the department without a long-term solution. If the Energy Department cannot find a way to store or handle the waste in the next 24 years, it will eventually violate agreements it has with 2 of the states in which the waste is located. That's the story. So the good people at MarketWatch, that's the lead. But way down here, use your miner's helmet, because here it is, comes this sentence. Because the law requires the U.S. government to be responsible for the waste, the government has to compensate the power plants for the cost of storing it. That's right. We agreed to be responsible for the waste, ladies and gentlemen. What other business gets to say that? You, government. Oh, no, we're self-sufficient, proudly market-based private industry. But here, government, take our waste. You're responsible. Thank you. We'll call you later if you don't do it. And now...
Clean, safe, too cheap to meter. Safe, cheap, too cheap to meter. Cheap, safe, too safe to meter. Safe, too safe to meter.
Addie?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, our friend the Atom is in the room, is in the house, we're supposed to say now, aren't we? Or has that gone? No, you're still wearing baggy jeans and putting tattoos on women, so I guess we can still say in the house. The scramble, if this doesn't twist your mind into even just a little knot, I'm not talking about, a granny knot or something, just a little tiny kink, then you're not listening. The scramble to cool the Fukushima nuclear complex with seawater in the aftermath of the thing puts a spotlight on just how much cold water an atomic reactor needs to function, and not just in a crisis, just every day, because of the thing. All existing nuclear plants use vast amounts of water as a coolant. In recent years, often far from the public eye, hot river and lake temperatures have forced nuclear power plants worldwide to decrease generating capacity. That's right. The warming that nuclear plants are supposed to help prevent is forcing the closing down of some nuclear plants because the water is too hot to cool them. You with me so far? Experts say the problem is only getting worse as climate change triggers prolonged heat waves, prompting calls for changes in siting processes. Yeah, that'll fix it. Move farther from the water. I'm sorry. Did I miss something there? Quote, as a long-range strategy, the industry might change where we site new plants to have better use of water resources, said Gary Vine, an independent consultant. Vine has worked in the nuclear industry for decades and is a former employee of the Electric Power Research Institute, a utility group. There's also hope that new technologies will help mitigate the problem. Well, there always is, isn't there? And what happens to that? Why, it can't cost any energy to cool the water, can it? Can't take... The U.S. Department of Energy is part of an international team working to design the next generation of nuclear plants, some of which will use less water than traditional plants. But the project faces numerous challenges, such as cost and implementation barriers. Cost? Implementation? No. The DOE anticipates that the new generation reactors will not be commercially available for at least 2 decades. And by then, climate effects, says the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, must figure into a utility's decision to build nuclear facilities. Climate change studies published in research journals such as Science and the Journal of Climate project longer and more intense heat waves over the next century worldwide, adding constraints to water-intensive power systems. Nuclear plants, here's a little figure to stick in your craw. Nuclear plants consume up to 25% more water than fossil fuel plants. And I have to say, because it's radio, Addie is looking very proud of that right now. Hey, I'm busting my buttons. He is indeed. U.S. regulators need to improve the security for used nuclear fuel stored in steel and concrete containers, according to a government watchdog. Hope they're feeding that dog. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has no central database of security-related information for so-called dry cask storage and doesn't have a comprehensive document outlining the roles and responsibilities of staff, according to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's Inspector General. Regional offices also use different groups of employees to monitor dry cask installations, so there's no forum for communication. These are the ways that waste is stored. Well, we can't put it in Yucca Mountain, you see. This could negatively impact NRC's mission to ensure adequate protection of public health and safety, promote the common defense of security, and protect the environment, according to the report. They need to improve the security for used nuclear fuel, you see. But no threat to public health by the lack of security. But I'm sure they would say that if they had a spokesman to say that. Dateline Port Gibson, Mississippi, an unknown amount of radioactive water was released accidentally into the Mississippi River late last week because the river isn't having enough problems. At the Grand Gulf Nuclear Station, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is investigating the incident. It suggests, this is the wording from the Natchez Democrat newspaper, the NRC suggests the release poses no public health hazard. That's a suggestion. There are other suggestions that could be made. They suggest. Somebody sat a while and thought about the choice of that verb. Insists? Assures? No. Suggests. Entergy Nuclear, which operates Grand Gulf, filed a report with the NRC explaining that crews located standing water at the plant last week after the area experienced heavy rains. It's good for the mosquitoes. Water was found at Unit 2 turbine building, which is an abandoned, partially constructed building, and began pumping the raw water into the river. An alarm apparently alerted workers to the presence of our old friend tritium. The pumps were turned off, stopping the flow. Investigators are not certain why tritium was in the stormwater or how it got there. God sent it. Although the concentrations of tritium exceeded EPA drinking water limits, the release should not represent a hazard to public health because of its dilution in the river, says Laura Uselding, a PR person with the NRC. So I guess that's the suggestion. It shouldn't do it. It shouldn't be a health hazard. Okay, then. Tell the tritium. Tritium has several uses. I don't need to know how to use tritium. Information from the EPA suggests exposure to tritium increases the risk of developing cancer because tritium emits low-energy radiation and is processed through the human body quickly. It's considered one of the least dangerous radionuclides. And another problem, this time with emergency equipment at southeast Nebraska's Cooper Nuclear Station, is adding to the cost of the plant's refueling shutdown, a cost that could hit power customers' pocketbooks. But it's cheap. The cost of the shutdown, originally budgeted at $31 million, has increased by $5 million as a result of the problem. The plant was taken offline in March for routine refueling operation. A problem with an emergency backup generator was discovered during a test. Same spokeswoman for NRC reports this. The generators can be critically important, as we've learned from Japan. The corporate nuclear business manager for the site said he doesn't know how much more it will cost ratepayers for electricity from other sources while the plant remains shut down because it is so darn cheap when it's running. Testing the evacuation of residents near U.S. atomic power plants would be difficult before an emergency, says the chairman of the NRC, Gregory Yaxko. Running mass evacuations on a trial basis is a challenge, he said, answering a question from Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader? Really? Interesting. Evacuation plans are being examined in the agency's 90-day review after the Fukushima thing. Nader said YASCO would be in charge of possibly the most difficult evacuation process in U.S. history in the event of a nuclear accident or reactor sabotage. He said real-life drills should be conducted of all evacuation plans. YASCO replied, state, local, and utility officials conduct exercises every 2 years at nuclear plants to test emergency communications. He called those a reasonable approximation for how the evacuations should work. 2 words: Hurricane Pam. An exercise conducted among all state, local, and federal officials testing hurricane communications a year or 2 before Katrina. Check it out, Gregory. And Lower Alloways Creek Township in New Jersey checks in with this cheery news. A southern New Jersey nuclear power plant has been taken offline for the 3rd time in 2 weeks so crews can clear vegetation that's blocking cooling water intakes. Yes, the Salem 1 reactor was taken offline. Wasn't known when it will go back online. Officials blame the shutdowns on, and here's a new one for your dictionary, ladies and gentlemen, grassing. A problem caused by vegetation, weeds, and grasses that grow along the Delaware River and its tributaries. I bet it happens somewhere else, too. The vegetation becomes dislodged and floats downstream and can become especially troublesome in the spring. It's clean, it's cheap, it's safe. Just watch out for the grassing. Addie, watch out for the grassing on your way out.
I'm aware of that, thank you.